SuperTalk Mississippi media production.
Oh, yeah.
Good morning, Mississippi.
Everything gonna be all right this morning.
Mornings with Richard Cross.
Oh, yeah.
Here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Woo! Now, when I was a young boy, at the age of 5, my mother said I was gonna be the greatest man alive.
Good morning, everybody. This is Lucien Smith in for Richard here on Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi. You're starting your week off right if you're listening to SuperTalk here on a Monday morning at 6 a.m. Thanks for being with us, and hope you'll stick around for the next 3 hours. Going to have a great listener-driven show today. The liberal media seems to have gotten almost all of our guests sick at the last minute, so this is going to be an opportunity for you and me and Lance to talk about what's on your mind and what's on our mind, and should be a great 3 hours of radio. Good morning, Lance.
It always is when you're here, Lucien. You know, when I asked Friday, I was like, well, okay, Dave, you going to be with me Monday? He goes, oh, no, you got Lucien. Well, it's an upgrade. No, I'm kidding. I love Dave.
Dave is great.
Yeah, Dave is so much fun for a Friday, and it's nice to see you. It's been a while. I hope the family's doing well. I know you've been going through some, renovations. And,
that's true. That's true.
That's always a challenge, especially as you get into school season. Goodness gracious.
Yes,
man.
it's our kids are ready to get out. We're staying in an apartment right now, and it's a little tighter than would be ideal. So they'll be very happy to get back in the house. My wife will too.
Well, the normal morning routine has to be much more challenging outside of the home in which you have built this logistical plan that gets you out the door where you need to be on time. And all of a sudden you're throwing a monkey wrench in that, and when you get back to the house, it's going to be like, oh my God, it's just cotton candy and ice cream every day.
It will be very nice when we get back there. And it's small enough that what ends up happening, and it's particularly tough on the days where I'm here, because I tend to get up about 3 or 4 to start doing the prep, making sure I'm ready. And, when we were in our house, I can get up and make a cup of coffee and not wake everybody up. That's not the case here. And so you're sort of tiptoeing around. But the other big difference, we're talking about this off the air, I know exactly when I have to leave my house to safely be sitting in this chair when the mic goes hot. I've not yet figured that out from where we're currently living. And it makes for some adventuresome mornings. I saw a video. You remember Good Morning America with Robin Williams back from the 80s, that movie?
Oh, yeah.
And the tagline. Oh, yeah, it's a great movie. And, his catchphrase is, "Good morning, Vietnam." And I saw a video of the Armed Forces Network DJ who that was based on.
Adrian Cronauer.
Exactly. And he explained that the real reason for the long good was not because he had, it wasn't like a signature catchphrase he was trying to develop. He said, when you're the morning DJ, you tend to roll in just before things go hot. You've overslept. You're running late. You're probably not all the way dressed. You don't have any of the music keyed up. And so you came in, and that long good gave you enough time. You'd walk in, and the newsreader would be finishing and saying, "And we'll have news again in 1 hour on the Air Force News Network." And you're reaching over, trying to turn everything on, get things calibrated, find a radio, and that good gave him enough time. So that's a little bit how I felt today. I've barely gotten to say hello to you because I came in hot.
You're scooting. He's gotten really good at the 1-2 minutes before 6:06:04. I'm coming, and I know he's ready because I always get his syllabus and layout, and But it is funny as you get comfortable in that spot where the platform is sinking, and I don't even worry with him, man. I'm like, I know it's coming. There was one time where I actually got like the first 5 or 6 minutes of the show to host, and I know most everybody was like, man, turn him off.
No, not at all.
But I actually didn't fumble.
My guess is they're listening to you and going, why do they have the other guy?
Yeah.
We need more Lance.
I doubt it. Maybe one here and there maybe. But it was funny because, it was just, it happens. Every now and again, the door doesn't open or something doesn't crank up right, and it's nice to feel comfortable enough to be able to do the weather and a few things without feeling like you fumbled the show, So this is the way it rolls sometimes. Did you have a nice weekend, though?
I did.
I know the Dogs gave away another one, but
That was heartbreaking.
man, isn't it? I keep wondering when it's going to happen for them. The team.
I mean, we're playing better than we were last year, but there are 3 games so far this season that we should have won. At least should have won based on how we were playing, that we didn't. I mean, it's tough.
It's disheartening, and at the same time, you see the promise.
That's right.
I've been there with Ole Miss before, where you've seen the team that's going to be. It's just not that yet.
That's right.
And there's something that's missing, maybe the finishing or whatever, or that one bad quarter. Ole Miss has had that regularly this year. It's had the one bad quarter.
Right.
They found a way to overcome that a couple of times. Last year, that was not the case.
Way.
So, you see the progression, though, but at the same time, you want to see them punch it in with that big W. That would have been a huge one. The bad thing about that game was I turned it off at 38-28 and was watching the end of the Alabama-South Carolina, thinking, okay, we got South Carolina coming up next. I'm going to watch this. State has this in hand, go down to the taco place, sit down at the bar. A guy with a Texas shirt and a really cool hat comes in. I'm like, man, what a cool hat. Oh, and that's a very vintage Texas jersey. Hate y'all lost tonight. And he goes, what? We won that. I said, are you kidding me? So I had to, while I'm sitting there talking to him, go back and look and see the last couple of minutes of that. And it's just, again, one of those where you're like, oh, man, head scratcher.
I couldn't agree. Look, we watched the first half of the game. We were not in Starkville. My in-laws are in town, and the kids had some stuff. And we asked the kids, do you want to go up and watch the game, or do you want to stay for the various activities they had? And they really wanted to go to the stuff here. So we stayed back, and my in-laws are here, and they said, look, why don't we watch the kids on Saturday, and you and Beth go out to dinner. And so we watched the first half of the game, then went out to dinner. We were up comfortably, and I didn't pay attention to it initially, and then pulled it up on my phone and went, oh my gosh, this has changed pretty dramatically. And fortunately, they had a TV on in the bar, and so we went out there and watched the end of the game. But I just quit paying attention because we were up enough. I thought, okay, we got this.
I worked the game until a little after 4 here, doing control, and then Dixon relieved me, so I got to leave, went home, had my dog Hawk with me all day, and so I went home and dropped him off. Hung out for a few minutes, and said, okay, I'm going to go eat something. And that window right there, it was like 30, 45 minutes where I didn't pay much attention. I was just hoping Ole Miss was going to finish theirs out and win it. It was one of those types of games as well. So, yeah, man, it just crazy times this time of year. Then Brian Kelly fired at LSU, which I never liked the fit, but people were excited to begin with.
Right.
But I just always thought that was a strange fit. Made it, less than 4 years? Is that right? Or
I think something like that, yeah. Hey, he hadn't
or
been
four
there
and a
that
half.
long.
I think it's 4.5, but then on a 10-year contract, and so that's a big one.
You and I picked the wrong field, because there's
fail upwards.
I mean, no doubt. If Big Daddy fires us today, I'm not sure I get to even keep the SuperTalk coffee cup that I have.
Even the key card's got to go.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
It's confiscated, I'm sure, but man, that's been a lot of the conversation over the last week or so. Is just that those that get fired. And the buyouts you get paid not to coach. It's one of those professions where the pay is so high that it's. I mean, there's contracts in other professions,
right.
and you're going to get paid to leave. You're owed that money. But when you're talking about the level of losing, maybe, and some of these long-term contracts that are. Ones that I guess you have to throw at them to get them.
I guess you do.
But 10-year contract. I mean, goodness, how do you know what's going to happen 2 years from now, a year from now, and rocking out a 10-year contract? That's pretty confident in the guy you hired, and it seems like a lot of those failed. You had Jimbo Fisher.
Yeah,
I mean that was a big payout. But they seem to have hired a guy that fits well for him in Elko, and same with Kelly. I mean, I don't know. You also paid Orgeron a ton of money to take
I think
off.
LSU is still paying Orgeron.
Yeah, I mean the amount of money that they owed him, and it is a head scratcher as to where is it all coming from. I mean, good Lord, to be able to throw that kind of money around without any kind of let's say production. It seems like an awful waste or a terrible negotiation. But hey, man!
But I guess you got to
do it.
Yeah, that must be the reason.
The must-have. You got to have that. And if you want to win, I guess it's the win at all costs mindset. But Man, that's a lot of money.
A
lot of money.
It really is extra. I mean, I don't think there's any question that the best job in America is a fired D1 college football coach.
Oh, just to chill for a bit, doesn't even have to work. I mean,
Absolutely.
It's like you got to go find a job eventually, and
I mean,
what if I go be an analyst?
I mean, if you're getting paid $20 million or so to not work, I mean,
it's something.
You need to go get a good, if you want to go back to work, go back to work. But that's the point where if you're reasonably smart about how you save your money, you don't have to work again.
Well, you shouldn't. It's one of those, if you gave me $1 million, I could generate $50K tax-free easily off of that without very much risk. So, I mean, how hard do you have to work, if you have $50 million in a decent setup where your money is generating? I mean, you don't even have to take risks.
No, that's right.
You just take the lowest hanging fruit, and you should be able to live just fine. Maybe not at the level you were, but there ain't no stress. You don't have to go recruiting and keeping all that train on the tracks, So.
Yes. All you got to do is wake up in the morning and figure out what you're going to eat and do that day.
Go fishing, man.
Y'all stick with us. This is Lucien Smith in for Richard here with Lance on Mornings on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Would you be mine? Oh, I heard through the grapevine, and I'm just about to lose my mind. Honey,
From the Venable Glass.
The inside track on Mississippi politics. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
you better think about what you're trying to do to me. Think, let your mind go, let yourself be free. Let's go back, let's go way on, way back when. I didn't even know you couldn't have been too much more than 10.
Morning, everybody. This is Lucien Smith in for Richard here on Mornings on Super Talk, Mississippi. Thanks for starting your week the best way here on Monday, October 27th. It's 6:21 a.m. If you want to be part of the conversation, hit us up on the C Spire text line, 601-879-4395. It's apparently foggy and wet between Sandersonville and Heidelberg this morning, so if you're in that part of the state, just be aware of it. Lance, how does the weather look today?
The weather is all over the place, really. South Haven area, 20% chance of showers, about a high near 63 today. You'll have a little bit of wind. Most of that will calm down in the evening, and then a chance of showers also tomorrow, possibly after 4, so spotty. Chance will be about 50% in the north part of the state. Kind of rolling through the next couple of days, the opportunity for rain will be there, so just be ready for that if you're up in the north portion of the state. Get down to Biloxi, the very south, it looks a little different down there. Mostly sunny, high near 79. You have a little breeze coming out of the northwest.
That's nice.
Yeah, tonight, same thing, 59 low. Be nice, a little north wind out of about 10 miles an hour. And then Tuesday, not much to worry about. You do get to Tuesday night, the chance of precipitation on the coast is around 60%. But it looks like it's going to blow through pretty quickly. It doesn't really say much about that on Wednesday other than a little bit of chance of showers before 1 p.m. So pretty good outlook for the next couple of days on the coast. Columbus area, slight chance of showers today between 1 and 2, cloudy, 67 high east to northeast winds, and a chance of precipitation about 20% tonight. Should be pretty calm and pretty, 53 up there in Columbus, and mostly cloudy, high near 69 tomorrow, and not much rain to worry about. Then you get over to Tuesday night, and you get back into the rain again, about 90%. So spotty over the next couple of days on the east portion and northeast portion of the state. And then the Delta today, cloudy, 71 degrees. A wind picking up into the afternoon. Tonight, about 55 degrees, and then a chance of showers tomorrow around 40%. And that should happen mostly through the mid part of the day, the later part of the day, and then lingering around at higher precipitation chances through the evening tomorrow night for the Delta. So that kind of gets us caught up there with the weather. And
it's that time of year where you can't quite decide whether you should have the air conditioning or the heat on.
Can't quite nail it down.
Yeah.
It's either going to be a little cool, a little warm, a little humid, a little rainy, a little dry. And then, you kind of come into the hunting season with whether it's been really wet or whether it's been really dry.
Yeah.
I can tell you, when I go to the Delta, you get up there in around late October, early November, you can tell if it's been wet or dry because those trails start filling up pretty quick like a little dish bowl. So I think it's been pretty dry right now. But it looks like the rain is a-coming over the next few days. So just prepare your plants and animals. And if you've got a drop top on the car sitting out there, it hadn't rained in a while, you might want to pop that up after
roll the windows
weekend.
up.
So, yeah, the rain will be there. Had a couple of interesting birthdays and things that happened on this day in history. President Theodore Roosevelt, born on this day in 1858 in New York City, New York. Let's see here. You got John Gotti. That was a pretty big one.
Yeah, he'd be, 85 today?
I don't know, 1940? Yeah, you nailed it, right?
Well, I read the notes. I didn't do that. I didn't know that off the top of my head.
John Cleese, 1 year older than John Gotti. He is a British actor. I always loved John Cleese. Roy Lichtenstein, the painter, 1923. And let's see here, a couple of interesting events. In 2017, Catalonia, the northeast corner of Spain, quite a few provinces up there near the Pyrenees, and that area that's always been fairly separatist. I believe, you've got the Basque region between France and Spain, but that northeast corner back in 2017 was really trying to pull out. They were parachuting out of the plane, wanted to get away from Spain and have their own country, and so they voted, and it went through. But yet Spain said, no, we're not doing that. So they replaced everybody that was in the legislature, basically, of Catalonia, and then allowed an election to happen again, and most everybody voted for secession. But at that point, they were like, no, it's not, that's not happening, I don't think.
Huh.
It's European politics. It's been very interesting to keep up with over the many, many years.
That's the truth.
Because it's always city-states that, grew into something bigger. And a lot of them now you start seeing they kind of want some of that independence back, kind of going backwards. So,
yeah. Well, and Spain's interesting, too, because
very, very.
As I appreciate it, the Catalonians speak they got a different language.
Oh, yeah. You got the TH in there. It's much heavier.
And, I think it's a whole different grammar, and the vocabulary is similar but different.
You have Castilian and all that.
That's right.
And again, that's one of the fascinating things about Europe to me is all of the different dialects that were kind of, forged into a country.
Right.
Little cultures and little things and different ways of seeing things. Everyone was very different based upon how their lord may have seen things. And so you look at those places now with long histories, and you just wonder how long does it last, and hopefully they can keep it together because, Spain's historic. One of those places you don't want to see fracturing, and the fracturing of Europe probably wouldn't be a good thing.
No, probably not.
Let's see here. Got a couple others in here. You have Duran, Simon Le Bon, 67 years old. Lee Greenwood, 83 today. And Scott Whalen, he would have been 58. The fame of, Velvet Revolver and Stone Temple Pilots.
There we go.
Great singer, a great voice. Ivan Reitman, he would have been 79. Meatballs, many others, but that was...
I didn't know Ivan Reitman was dead.
Yeah, he passed away, I think, in 2022.
Okay.
Would have been the date on that one. And let's see here. I knew there was a couple of other interesting little tidbits with Taylor Swift, released her in 1989, which she described as her first official pop album, these many years in 2014.
It's been that long ago.
Yeah. It almost seems like it's been longer. She's such an icon now, been around. I don't even remember when she wasn't famous almost at this point.
I went with my wife. We were not married then, but to a Keith Urban concert. Mm-hmm. And this would have been like 2009, I think. Somebody I'm sure will correct me on this on the C Spire text line, but went to a Keith Urban concert where she was the opener. And it was just when she exploded. She had been booked as the opener when she was this kind of unknown country singer, little girl from Nashville, or wherever she was from, but out of Nashville. And by the time the concert came to Atlanta, she was a bigger star than Keith Urban. Like we were some of the few people who'd come to the concert for him. Most of the people there were teenage girls who were there for Taylor Swift, and Keith was just kind of along for the ride at that
just
point.
Happened.
Exactly. The upside was there was never a line at for the beer stands.
Yeah, well, man. And Reading, Pennsylvania is where she was born, age 35, West Reading, Pennsylvania, and she has a birthday upcoming December 13th. She was born in 1989, so she's still a young'un.
No doubt.
Bunch of big birthdays tomorrow, though, as far as personalities. But one other, Kelly Osbourne, 41. And that's and then Marla Maples. Everybody remembers that. She's mom to Tiffany Trump.
There we go.
The Trump you don't see as much.
The second wife.
Right. Yeah.
She was at the convention at least.
The tweener.
That's right.
And let's see, there was a couple of interesting things. 1858, Roland Macy opened Macy's department store in New York City. The store, now at 34 and Broadway, remains the biggest store in the world until 2009.
Wow.
When South Korea's Shinsage, and I don't know how to say this one, Sentamusi Center, took the crown. So they built a bigger one.
A bigger shopping.
Bigger shopping house, I guess, for all the goodies. Today in 1904, the first subway cars were placed in operation, forming the New York City subway system. There's probably still a few of those buried down there somewhere, people living in them. It's probably like an apartment now, like I have the subway apartment. It's 4 stories underground, but they operated between Brooklyn Bridge and Broadway. That was the first one, from City Hall to West 145th. So wasn't a whole big deal. The first was underground rail system in the world. So that's pretty groundbreaking back in the days. Now you're wanting to take New York back to the Stone Ages, so good luck with that. 1927, the first newsreel featuring sound was released in New York. Hey, boy, hey, fast talking, drinking coffee, smoking cigarettes. But I love the old New York and broadcasting of that era. If you ever go back, I mean, God, they talk so fast.
Oh, yeah.
And Dave and I will debate whether they were actually talking that fast or was that actually the tape, the speed
that's an
it may have been
interesting
set.
question.
Because it's it's like auctioneer stuff, But that's about most of it. In 97, you had the big drop on the Dow, 554 points, forcing the stock market to shut down for the first time since the Reagan assassination attempt in 81. And then in 99, the Yankees won their second straight World Series, defeating the Atlanta Braves in Game 4, 4-1. So the Red Sox won their first one, in 04. And the first time in 86 years.
I was living just outside of Boston when that happened. I was working in the back of a restaurant in Arlington, Massachusetts, and listened to the ALCS on a little radio over by the stove. It's a great memory.
Yeah.
Well, y'all stick with us. This is Lucien Smith here with Lance on Mornings on Super Talk Mississippi.
Ça fait pas rien, quoi c'est ça dit. Tu vas venir avec moi dans la maison. Finis tes jours dans tes bras avec ton air.
From the Seabrook, things happening here in the state. One morning at a time. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk Mississippi.
Good morning, y'all. This is Lucien Smith in for Richard here on Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk Mississippi. Got Snoopy playing the piano there to bring us in. It's
Woodstock and Snoopy.
That's right.
Breaking it down for us. We're getting close.
I know. It's almost Halloween.
Almost candy time.
You got your costume lined up?
I'm wearing it right now.
There we go.
I scare everybody just wearing the normal attire, so I'll go that way. Hey, one other thing I wanted to mention, because I love movies, and especially the old historical ones. Anytime there's Powers Booth that's starring in a movie, I'm going to watch it probably 50 times. So Navy man John Anthony Walker, back in 1985, and his son Michael both pled guilty in a Baltimore court to spying for the Soviet Union. You may not remember that,
I don't.
but it was probably one of the first big ones. John Walker, son, they were a father-son team. John had basically retired, but there's a movie called A Family of Spies, and it's usually on Tubi for free. You ought to watch it. It's a very poorly done movie, 85-ish, 88 range. I'm not quite sure, but it's one of those made-for-TV types. But it's excellent. The cast was well done, good plot. It's just one of those kind of old Lifetimey looking movies, but it's really well done as far as from a historical context. So
does Tubi have ads? Is that how they make money?
It's all you'll get a 2 or 3 minute ad in there 3 or 4 times maybe over a couple hours. So it's bearable.
But it's great because it's free. That's the thing. Is so many of those the all the other streaming services, you end up paying for, at least all the
Some
ones
of
I
them,
know
yeah,
of.
if you want, if you don't want the ads and stuff. But yeah, I just Tubi always has a lot of free stuff. It's one where you can find some interesting things on there for free, and that's a good one to watch if you're looking at historical documentary type movies. If you're that type,
we downloaded Tubi because the kids got really into Carmen Sandiego.
Okay.
You remember Carmen Sandiego? You may be a little older.
I remember Diego and Dora and all that.
Yeah,
but
this was like 80s, early 90s
Okay.
PBS kid stuff where there was a criminal named Carmen Sandiego who would travel around the world, and it was based on a computer game, but it was educational. It was like we're teaching kids about geography. And I don't know how my kids got into it. They got into it, but Tubi has some of the old episodes, and so we downloaded it, and they've been watching, learning about the world.
I love it. Well, there's a new AP Top 25 out today.
There we go.
Yeah,
you got a little sports news for us?
We got a few sports newsy things for us today. Obviously we had a pretty big weekend. Southern Miss absolutely reeling them off, man. Homecoming against UL Monroe, 49-21 victory. They have been playing really good football since the loss to Louisiana Tech back, what was that, on September the 20th.
Right.
So, I mean, they're hot, man. So you're looking at a team that's 6-2 now, 4-0 in the conference, and bowl eligible. Can you remember the last time that the Eagles were bowl eligible after 8 games and 4-0 in a conference? And, hey, remember, they stepped up to the Sun Belt a couple years ago. So that was a heck of a hire so far. I think that was panning out pretty well. Mississippi State had a rough one, OT, 45-38 loss. That game was a mid-afternoon boat race. It seemed like they had it hemmed up and just couldn't put it out. But they have another shot against Arkansas, who fired their coach, remember, a week or two ago?
Yeah, a lot of folks
seem to be playing
on the
well now with the motorcycle man calling the plays. And
that's right.
That one will be a 3:00 game on November 1st. So the Dogs, though, they are hung up here at 4-4, 0-4 in the conference, need that first conference win, and having an Arkansas team on the road. It's never easy to play in Fayetteville. So I don't have a prediction for this one, but again, I think State is very well positioned to give themselves a shot to win that first SEC game, get 5-4.
That's essentially the only opportunity this season. I mean, I guess you got a shot at Missouri.
But again, on the road at Mizzou is not the 2 road games you got coming up are not easy ones, even though the teams aren't, I would say Mizzou is playing great football. Well, they lost 1 game, so you can't really sneeze at that one and go, well, they're not, they're not that good. It's just Missouri. No, they're 8 games in, they've lost 1. So you got Georgia next after Arkansas and then Missouri. So, yeah, you finish with Ole Miss. The next 4, that's a pretty good gauntlet, though, with 2 on the road. And then you host Ole Miss to finish the season out. Ole Miss did win. It was a 34-26 game, had it seemingly in hand, and then let them get back in it. But decided to play a 4th quarter this week and put it away. So that was always, in question, it seemed, there as we were going. And we had a bunch of NFL games. Let me make sure that I wanted to cover this one because they've been on a run as well since they lost to UNC Pembroke back on September 13th. And I'm talking about Delta State. Delta State is 7-1 right now, 4-0 at home, 3-1 away. And right now it says 1-0 in the conference. They've reeled off 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in a row. And the next game they have University of West Florida coming up November 1st on Saturday, and that will be in Cleveland, Miss, and that will be a Flow College sports game as far as being televised. So the Statesmen, the Fighting Okra, they're fighting, man. 7-1.
Good for them.
Heck of a season so far.
John from Hurley here on the C Spire text line points out that if you're a junior at Mississippi State, you've never seen an SEC win.
Okay,
at
I
Davis
didn't
Wade.
want to say that because I thought we were in that. We were getting.
I think
because
it's been 16.
Right.
I think it's been 16 straight SEC games that we've lost.
And also JUCO update: Northwest Mississippi Community College 7-1, 4-1 on the the northern side of that. East Mississippi is right behind them at 6-2, 4-1, and Itawamba 4-1 in the conference and 5-3. So those are your leaders on the northern side of that. And then the southern side, Colin is 7-1, 5-1. Mississippi Gulf Coast 7-1, 4-1. And Hines Community College is 6-2 and 4-1 in the south. So those are your top 6 teams right now as we move into the end of basically junior college football will be coming up shortly. And I did not want to go without mentioning that because people know I love Mississippi high school football. One of the great things about JUCO is that it's so many Mississippi kids that are really good, and they may not be able to have an opportunity to go play somewhere because we know the rosters and how all this stuff works. But you go over to JUCO and you go show out and do well. And these kids, man, I'm telling you, JUCO football in Mississippi is lights out.
Oh, it's
Thursday
nowhere else
nights,
like it.
there's nothing like it. So I want to give a shout out to those guys, and so many of them have just great careers after going there. And you love to have that bouncing spot for some of these young men and young women that get a chance, that maybe not have had the 4-year opportunity out of high school, or said, hey, this is a better fit for me out of high school.
Absolutely.
So it's a great system, and just always love trying to highlight that for just a second.
Oh, I agree.
That's what I got there.
Great for athletes, and also great just on the academic side. If you're a kid who's trying to figure out whether college is the right decision, a lot of times going for 2 years and getting that associate's degree and figuring it out is a heck of a cheaper way to figure out whether college is the right fit for you than go into a 4-year.
And you also had some Major League Baseball. We're waiting on the third game tonight, game 3. Series is tied at 1-1. The Blue Jays and the Dodgers will get after it tonight in Los Angeles. Chavez Ravine has been fairly the first game. I believe that was the one where the Blue Jays kind of blew out the Dodgers 11-4, and then you had the 5-1 Dodgers victory. So, two teams that seem evenly matched. Both have won handily when they've won, and we'll see tonight. Maybe it'll be a little bit closer ball game. Not really sure what to consider on that one.
Where are they tonight?
You can be in Chavez Ravine and Los Angeles.
There we go.
So you also had a bunch of football. We'll just kind of go quickly through that. Dolphins beat the Falcons 34-10. Jets in a 1-point victory to get the first victory of the season. 39-38 over the Bengals. Jets are now 1-7. Bengals 3-5. But that's you get your first one. You never know from there. But man, the Jets have been terrible up to that point. You also had the Patriots taking out the Browns 32-13. The Giants just looked bad last night. Defense was terrible. You couldn't get anything really going on offense. And you were playing the defending national champs in the Eagles, who are 6-2. The Eagles won that one 38-20. Bills 40-9 over the Panthers. The Ravens 30-16 over the Bears. Texans beat the 49ers 26-15. Buccaneers easily over the Saints 23-3. The Bucs are 6-2. Saints 1-7. Getting that bag mentality back, the whole paper bags. At some point you'll see somebody wearing them. The Broncos boat race the Cowboys. Nix is on fire. Peyton seems to have it going over there, 44-24. The fourth quarter of that Giants game last week where the Broncos scored 34 to win that game when they had 0 going into the fourth quarter was remarkable, and they have been on a tear since then. They've scored 77 points or 78 points in the last 5 quarters of football.
Goodness.
The Colts 38-14. Colts are 7-1. Titans lost that one. They're 1-7, and I think they've already fired their coach, right? And then the Packers looking good last night, 35-25. And one of the interesting tidbits from that is every one of the previous 3 quarterbacks for the Packers had won a title in their age 27. Bart Starr, Brett Favre, and Aaron Rodgers. Now you got Jordan Love. He's 27. Whew. So we'll see if he's the 4th in a row that will get the title. But they're playing good football at 5-1 so far, and big victory for the Pack last night. So that'll ring us in on the sports pretty much.
Well, a couple people on the C Spire text line have pointed out we promised them the new AP poll, and then we didn't talk about it.
We'll do it right before.
100%.
Y'all just ran out of time. I'll give you that. It'll take 1 second on the other side of this break.
Hey, stick with us. We'll have a lottery update and the latest AP football poll coming up after this break.
Sneaking Sally through the alley, out of sight. Sneaking Sally through the alley, went up off the wife. I said I can't find nothing wrong with being friends, 'cause sometimes she lets me use the car.
From the Venable Glass.
Know where the news is going next. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Good morning, y'all. This is Lucien Smith in for Richard here on Mornings on SuperTalk, Mississippi. Lottery update here. We Powerball had no jackpot winner. Its jackpot for tonight is $358 million. The numbers from Saturday, October 25th, were 2, 12, 22, 39, 67. The Powerball was 15, and the Power Play multiplier was 2. Mega Millions also had no jackpot winner. Its estimated jackpot for Tuesday, October 28th, is $714 million. The numbers from Friday, October 24th, were 11, 18, 31, 51, 56, and the Mega Ball was 24. $714 million. It's a good time to go to the store and get yourself a couple of those tickets right there.
It'll be $1 billion before you know. Give it a week and a half or two. As it gets big like that, it starts snowballing. They're like, oh, I got to get in on this.
You can live like Coach O and Brian Kelly and just count your interest money in the morning and fish and do whatever you like to do all day.
I'd have a crazy podcast too, just to vent some steam, maybe.
I think. Look, I'd listen to it. Remember, you can't win if you don't play, and play responsibly. This update is brought to you by the Mississippi Lottery Corporation. Well,
as promised,
here we go. Let's get that AP poll.
Boom, 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 boom. The AP poll. Well, we'll start at the bottom of this thing. Memphis at 25. They're 7-1. Utah, they're 6-2 at 24. USC 5-2 at 23. And the reason I'm saying this is because you're looking at a bunch of teams at that second loss. All right, you don't want to be that team with the second loss as you go into a playoff that is going to absolutely be looking at that second loss if there's a bunch of these teams up there that are still 7-0 and 8-1. You got Houston at 22, Michigan at 21, and Texas dropped. It actually moved up in the AP 2 points after beating State, but dropped in the coaches poll a couple. So Texas sitting there at 20, and then you get into Missouri, Oklahoma, and Missouri did lose. That's right. So they're 6-2 now and have that loss on the resume. They dropped 4. They're at 19. Oklahoma dropped 5 spots to 18. Cincinnati moved up 4. They're 17 now at 7-1. So now you're getting into the teams that most of these teams are 7-1, unless you're a Notre Dame or a Tennessee who seems to get favored nation status. But Louisville, they're 16th at 6-1. Virginia 15. Tennessee is a 6-2 team that is at 14. Texas Tech at 13. They're 7-1. They moved up 1. Notre Dame, after opening roughly, they're 5-2 and have stabilized at 12. They've stuck there at that spot. Did not move anywhere. Miami, 6-1, didn't play great, but they won the game, and so they dropped a point there at 10. And they've got basically 2 teams at 10 here, but one of them is Miami. That would be 11. BYU would be 10. BYU is undefeated at 8-0. Vanderbilt, 7-1, one of the sneaky teams this year with Diego Pavia. Heck of a quarterback, man, but he makes that whole team just rock. They're 7-1 at 9. Then you got Georgia Tech, undefeated. They're at 8. Ole Miss is 7, moved up 1 by beating Oklahoma, 7-1. Oregon is number 6 at 7-1. And all of the top 6 basically stayed as is after the weekend. So you had Oregon, Georgia, Alabama, A&M, Indiana, and Ohio State that round out those top 6. And again, none of those teams moved a muscle. Now, Ohio State has 54 votes for 1, Indiana 11, and A&M 1. So, to me, I think A&M looks pretty good. I don't know if anybody would disagree with that. Indiana looks solid in Ohio State, but I do think Ohio State's still the best team in the country until you can prove you can beat those guys. I me're excellent. But
yeah, I don't disagree.
It's hard
with
for me to have only one first-place vote for A&M. As much as I despise them and wanted LSU to win, that's, I think, a little unfair. Over in the AFCA coaches poll, they're getting 2 votes for 1, and Ohio State's getting 62 votes.
Goodness.
But Indiana is actually ranked 2 with no votes. So how do you make that up? A&M with the coaches are getting 2 votes. They should be 2. But
yeah,
it
you would
doesn't
think
work
so.
that way. So,
well, we do have one correction from the text line, and if you want to be part of the conversation, hit us on the C Spire text line, 601-879-4395. Apparently, if you were a junior at Mississippi State, you did see an SEC win your freshman year because they beat Arkansas.
Because it was 2. Yeah, they had the 1 win that year, right?
That's right.
Yeah, okay. I was wondering. They haven't logged many.
Yeah.
It gone through a stretch here. Now, I've seen some people going, oh, should they fire Lebby? No, Lebby's a good coach, man. I think it's going to take a little time, but I believe you see in this season that a team that has the ability to go out and score. Where they're light right now to me is in the defensive front and maybe in the center of the field at linebacker. But it's not taking away from what they do have. It's
Right.
just not up to the standard that you've normally seen at Mississippi State with that defensive front. And I believe that's a lot of what your problem is right now. Late in games, you just run out of juice.
That is exactly right. And that's what's happened in those 3 games that probably should have won. So we're certainly trending in the right direction.
Just got to sign some linemen, man. That's going to be the key.
There we go. Y'all, this is Lucien Smith here with Lance, in for Richard on mornings on Super Talk Mississippi. Stick with us for more in the 7 o'clock hour. Coming up next is Fox News, followed by Super Talk Mississippi News.
Coming back to me, granny mama, where you been so long?
And opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, and callers on this show are not the opinions of TeleSouth Communications, its management, or advertisers.
No filibuster. Just everything you need to know to start your day smarter. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk Mississippi.
Good morning, everybody. This is Lucien Smith in for Richard Cross here on Mornings. Welcome to the second hour of this show here with Lance Talbert. It's the right way to start your week here on a Monday, October 27th. You know, Lance, it's somebody made this analogy. I think it's perfect. Donald Trump, it's like if you have a cat with a laser pointer, and he's got the laser pointer, and wherever he puts it, the Democrats and the national media go, just chase after it, talking about how terrible it is, no matter what it is.
Yeah.
All he has to do is say it, and instantly you'll have the Democrats talk about how awful it is. And it speaks, I think, to kind of a sickness in our politics that you can't ever agree with the other party ever. It's impossible.
Insecurity.
Yeah. Oh, exactly.
That insecurity that you can't respect the beliefs and views of others because for some way or some reason they've rattled you so bad that you can't enjoy life. And so therefore it's just all this anger. I'm anxious to see how they're going to frame Trump meeting with the Japanese Emperor Naruhito, and with the new election of the conservative member over there, Sanae Takaichi, the new prime minister, in October, who's very conservative, wants to build the military up, wants to enforce borders, is not big on this China immigrating in, and been a very big hawk against China. And one of our great partners for many, many decades has had some economic issues over the years. She's more of a getting back to Shinzo Abe economics, whereas there's some fiscal stimulus and austerity and things to get the economy back on the right track. So this will be interesting to see because Japan is a huge counterweight for us, not only with China but with Russia. You got to remember the geographic positioning of the place. So I'm curious how that's going to be framed because that's a huge deal. Getting welcomed by the emperor,
absolutely, getting
over there and making buddies with a conservative outfit, and I believe that those are the types of allies that you really need to double down with.
I completely agree, especially as the Chinese Communist Party is trying to be a threat to us in the eastern part of the world.
But you've seen the infiltration of Western Europe predominantly with the Muslim extremists. And again, I don't have a problem with Muslims. I got a problem with extremists, as anyone should.
Right.
Those that want Sharia law, those that want to impose that upon a system that was never built and designed for that. So you look at England and several others, but England's a great example. It should offer something here that Trump is able to get around the world and create these partnerships and alliances, because if England doesn't watch out, they're going to get left in the dust if you don't get your stuff together. So I look at competition. It's almost like recruiting, right? Not everybody's going to get the 5-star players. Trump seems to be in the position, though, where he's going out and trying to create the most bang for the buck partnerships. I don't think we've seen that in some while where you're going, okay, what's the value here? Why are we doing this? And is this of American interest?
Exactly. Is this what's good? Is this the best decision for the American people? No,
So
you're
I'm
right.
curious how that's going to be framed, because this seems to be on both sides good for America, good for Japan, and good for the conservative values that our president and they embody.
I'm willing. I would bet you money, though, there will be an article after he meets with the emperor by one of the mainstream, whether it's TV or one of the mainstream print outlets, that talks about how he did something that was offensive, his story. He put his hand in his pocket, which means
or
something
it'll be
terrible.
while he's getting a tour of the palace, and they're going to say, he mentioned something that would be like, I'd have built it this way or something. It'll be something nothing, and that's really the gist of whatever disagreement. It'll be nothing.
That's right. But you think about it with, and I know you've talked about it before, you think about it with the ballroom that he's building at the White House. I mean, all of a sudden,
rattled so many people.
It's crazy. I mean, Eric Swalwell, who remember is the Democratic representative from California who was ensnared in a Chinese communist honeypot, as I appreciate it, despite being on the House Intelligence Committee. Allegedly ensnared in a honeypot. But he said that it is a litmus test for anybody running for the Democratic nomination for president in 28, that the first thing you do is tear down the ballroom. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's crazy. And they've talked about building a ballroom since the late 19th century. We're putting people up in tents. Mm-hmm. And even in this,
maybe if you're Muammar Gaddafi, that's a good idea. He lived in a tent outside of a palace. But we're a developed country here with a history of hosting leaders from all over, and you're out there in the yard basically. But so many people are upset about creating a ballroom, and not with taxpayer dollars either. I think that's the other thing that is really rattled is that it's not something they could hang a trophy on and say, you see, he's using taxpayer money here in the middle of a government shutdown. That's the other thing that's probably rattling a lot. So,
but they just can't they cannot like anything that he does. But it was interesting. The Washington Post, which is not a conservative news outlet, came out with an editorial supporting the president's ballroom and kind of making that same point that, if we do a state dinner, if the president goes to a state dinner in most places in the world, he's going to be inside of a building, not some sort of a tent with porta potties outside, which is why they've been talking about this.
It's hard to believe
since the 19th century.
It's hard to believe that's such a big deal. Honestly, as many renovations as have happened. I mean, I get it. The Democrats, their god is FDR. He built the East Wing. That's what's being demolished. Oh, goodness gracious. Democracy's crumbling.
Right.
That's the mindset. The mind is definitely in a state of precariousness there, because it's looking into the abyss, to me, the Democrat mind, and it sees itself maybe. And I wonder if at some point you're going to see a backing up. I mean, more like a Fetterman, where folks are going, hey, we still embody these values here, but we can't go this route, for God's sake. So let's get back to some sanity.
We'll see, right? They seem to be running right into the crazy, which is great for the Republicans.
Yeah, the buzzsaw of crazy will only help the Republicans out, and I don't think the Democrats understand that. The further left they push themselves, the further you're pushing people that are moderate into the right side or the conservative values, and that's fine for the Republicans. That's going to be great for elections.
Oh, I agree. But you saw, it's interesting too. There's been this real effort by the mainstream media to try to talk about the East Wing of the White House and build it up. I saw somebody talk about how terrible it was that there's no longer an East Room. Well, the East Room's still there. That's not in the East Wing. The AP had a story over the weekend that was all about the history that has occurred over the years in the East Wing, and you read it.
It seemed like a jumbled mess of stuff.
Well, they couldn't come up with anything.
Yeah,
they told some story about how Rosalind Carter really liked to go. She was the first one to use the East Wing as her office instead of the residence. And
is that when she was hanging out with Jim Jones?
Well, the article says she had to wear long underwear to go through the basement to get over there because the president was keeping it so cold. I mean, that's an interesting story, I suppose. But that's they act like maybe the Gettysburg Address was given in the East Wing.
I don't know of anything historical that really truly happened. I went back and tried to find the big things and why you would be so upset about tearing down this big monument of history,
right?
When in reality it seems like it was just a jumbled mess of offices and nothing really specific.
No, but this again, it's the Trump derangement syndrome.
Yeah.
It's they just can't like the folks who were protesting over the weekend at these No Kings rallies, and I love
those are awesome.
Yeah,
I mean,
and
absolutely.
It's every time the president sends out a tweet that says, thank you for or on Truth Social, thank you for rallying. I'm glad to hear there's no king and I'm still president.
Yeah,
and it's great.
Exactly. I mean, and it was funny playing how he likes to push some buttons on the left was the comments he made about, I could be president again in 2020.
Oh, yeah,
I could run
stuff.
as vice president, and then the president would step down, and then I could be president. But that's a little too cute. I don't think I'm going to do it. But it's stuff like that just really he
they're going
understands
crazy.
that it really rattles the brain of the left. And again, as you mentioned, the further and the more they continue embracing this Trump derangement syndrome, it makes those that are sane and those that are moderate and much more measured look so much more appealing.
Yeah, I think that's right. And I think the third term stuff is interesting to me because Steve Bannon, who was a major part of the Trump effort back in 2016 and then came into the White House for a little while. I'm not sure what kind of relationship he has with the president now. For a while, there was they had certainly fallen out.
He has great hair, though. I'll give
he
him
does
that.
have amazing hair.
Amazing
he
locks.
does have amazing hair. But he gave an interview to The Economist magazine that was released last week where he said, there's a plan for President Trump to serve a third term. And the president got asked about it, I think, this morning in Asia.
And I think that was the shot he was firing.
Yes.
Was that those comments on this morning.
But he can't. The president, the theory that you can run as vice president and then resign, the Constitution doesn't allow that either for reasons we can talk about coming up in this next segment. Y'all, this is Lucien Smith here with Lance on Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk Mississippi. Stick with us. We'll have more coming up next.
Duck back down the alley with some roly-poly little bat-faced girl. All along, there were incidents and accidents. There were hints and allegations. If you'll be my bodyguard, I can be your long-lost pal. I can call you Daddy, and Daddy, when you call me, you can call me out. Call me out.
From the Venable Glass.
Yourself a cup of coffee and get the Magnolia State's most important news of the day. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk Mississippi.
Good morning, y'all. This is Lucien Smith in for Richard Cross here on Mornings with Richard Cross, which is presented by Community Bank, rooted in our community, communitybank.net. At Community Bank, we're more than just a place to manage your money. We're your neighbors, your partners, and your trusted financial advisors. For decades, we've been rooted in our community, helping families, small businesses, and individuals achieve their dreams. Whether it's opening your first savings account, planning for a brighter future, or growing your business, we're here every step of the way. We're dedicated to our customers, committed to your success, and always here when you need us. Community Bank, rooted in our community, member FDIC. Well, we were talking about this before the break, and feel free to chime in if you've got thoughts. To send us a text at the C Spire text line at 601-879-4395. But Steve Bannon last week suggested that that there was already a plan for Donald Trump to run for a third term, which not surprisingly sent the left into a tailspin. But the president made clear this morning he had no intention of doing that. The theory, as I appreciate it, is the 22nd Amendment to the Constitution, which is the post-FDR amendment that prohibits somebody from serving more than 2 terms, talks about getting elected. It says that no person shall be elected to the office of president more than twice. And so the theory is, well, you can't be elected president twice, but somebody could run as president and Donald Trump could be the vice president. And then once that person's elected, the new president would resign, and the vice president Trump would become president again. But the 12th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution says that you're ineligible to run as vice president if you're not eligible to serve as president again.
Right.
And so, it's interesting to me that the left loves to hate on this idea of originalism in the courts. It's pretty clear that the original drafters of this amendment to the Constitution intended to prohibit somebody from serving multiple terms as president. I mean,
Even Washington didn't want to.
Exactly.
I'm
He
not a
started the
king,
tradition, and it's not good. Even if you think another term of Donald Trump would be good for America, which it probably would be, what's bad for America is having a single person serve as president for so long that everything begins to revolve around them, and it turns into sort of elected monarch.
How long was Blair in charge over in England?
Yeah,
I mean, you look at these folks that have been there too long. We talk
That's
about
right.
folks that have been in Congress for 16 years, need to go, and things like that. Those have been there 20. Well, isn't that the same concept? Really? I mean, you don't really want people. You want the citizens of the country to, basically get the opportunity to move up and go into politics. It can't be a situation where you have an oligarchy of politicians.
Right.
That have been there forever, and I got to raise $400 billion to take out here this person. I mean, it needs to be in a situation where, and I'm a firm believer in term limits, even in the congressional side, because I think you've seen that seat and those powers can be greatly abused the longer you're there. You become a millionaire pretty quick if you just get elected. So think about it if you're in Congress 30 years.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, you don't. No organization works well if it requires a single person to be there. I mean, if you don't have the systems and processes set up in a way that other people can come into those roles, and you see it with companies all the time when they replace CEOs. You need to have it set up in a way that it's not all around. That all is revolving around one person.
Well, and you got to have, it's an echo chamber at that point. It's always what you think is right, and everyone under you has to kind of toe the line, or, hey, guess what? You don't move up. And I guess that's where the term limit mindset, to me, is such an important piece in politics, is always having that desire, that ambition underneath, that people have an opportunity to move up. And then as there is a limit on your power and your ability, maybe you get a little bit more done before you hit that last term. Maybe you try a little harder. Maybe it's something where you go, maybe my constituents want to see more fixed and more done. Instead of going, I can just sit around and keep winning elections for 30 more years.
The one thing that makes me nervous about term limits in Congress is I worry it ends up shifting power from the elected officials who are at least theoretically responsive to their voters to staff and to lobbyists who the voters can't get out.
I think that's a great point,
I think that's
and
the big
an
risk.
interesting problem, because there's always the cost of unintended consequences.
Right.
It's anything we talk about. I'm never going to be the one that's 100% over here. I learned in finance, there's never 100% certainty in anything. Probability doesn't work that way, and humans are always going to make errors and mess up stuff. That's what we do.
That's right.
So I'm with you. I think there's a definite worry I would have at how the staff and the administrative and the bureaucracy itself may take that power where it's supposed to be in the elected official. I think it's a very interesting point. As, say, even with school choice, these same things, there's so many arguments for it. What are the ones against it? What are the cost of unintended consequences? It's not that I'm not for it.
No, but you got to think about things.
Let's get all this stuff out, and let's make sure that every question that anyone can think is considered. And I think that's the way I think more is, find the problems, and let's try to find common ground and consensus somewhere where we disagree, one thread. And that's what we don't have now, right, Lucien? I mean, in the national politics especially, we just don't have any ability to, I think, as Jimmy Carter and some of these were great negotiators, you find the one common thread, and you try to build from there something that can last. It just seems that the left is completely anti.
Well, they've figured out
they don't want none of that.
They don't want any of it, and they've their strategy is they've gotten so far to the left. It used to be at the national level in the primaries, people tended to run to the edges. They would get more conservative if they were in the Republican Party. They'd get more liberal if they were in the Democratic Party, and then when they'd get to the actual general election, they would moderate a little bit. I mean, they would try to run more to get those middle voters. And what the new strategy is to demonize the other side. Yeah. And I think the reason for that is the Democrats have gotten so beholden to the extreme part of their party. They are beholden to these absolute left-wing crazies that if they moderate, it's their own cancel culture. If they came back and moved to the middle, absolutely. If they came back to the middle even a little bit, the folks on the left would go, "Oh, these people are terrible. I mean, we can't be for these people. We're not going to vote. We're not going to show up and vote." So they got to stay so far left. So what they try to do is demonize the other side. It's the reason that they're telling you Trump is a dictator. He's an authoritarian. This is the end of the world. Our democracy was supposed to end when he was elected in 24. So
we're living in an alternate reality, I guess.
But there's so many of them who believe it. I saw some posts over the weekend on Facebook, and it was somebody who was convinced the president's going to run for that third term. The Supreme Court, which are just his lackeys, he controls the Supreme Court. They're going to let him do it, and we live in a dictatorship. If he runs for a third term, which I don't think he's going to, he said this morning he's not going to, the Supreme Court's not going to let him because the Constitution does not allow it. I see some people on the C Spire text line who make the smart argument that the limit applies to vice president on being eligible. It doesn't apply to Speaker of the House, who would be next in line. And so you maybe could engineer it that way. But I think what would control is the intent of the people who drafted that amendment. And clearly it was to prevent somebody from serving multiple terms. It's just they've lost their mind. But he does that to people. That's the superpower.
That's the superpower, exactly. It's one of those things that it really makes your head scratch because you wonder how you got here almost. I being someone that's lived my entire life in this country, I never experienced a time where it seems we went backwards as far as relations and race and many other things. It seems we've taken a step very far back. And I wonder how we got there because my mindset hasn't changed as a conservative. I didn't wake up one day and go, I hate the left.
Right.
I don't see any value in them. I don't think anything they say has any value. I never have thought that. I've always gone, yeah, I respect that. I see where you want to help people. I see where this, and this. But again, I'm not one of those that's going to always take a hard stance. I like seeing and listening to other people's opinions and trying to find some reasonable amount of understanding there. But there is none over there, and that's what really worries me. How did we get there, Lucien? You worked in the national world. How does an entire party get absolutely railroaded into the most extreme mindset when obviously the moderate would win?
I think it's just that. I think they're so beholden to their left-wing base and so afraid that if they moderate a little bit, they'll get thrown out, that they've got to keep playing into this fantasy.
And that's a losing
Donald
strategy.
Trump's. I agree. And I think it was interesting. You saw, maybe we can talk about this more in the 8 o'clock hour, Hakeem Jeffries, the leader of the Democrats in the House, over the weekend started suggesting that Trump was trying to rig the 26 midterm elections, which tells you a couple things. One, it shows you how dishonest the Democrats have been about election denial. And two, it shows you how they know there's a pretty good chance that they are going to get creamed in this midterm election, and so they're already trying to come up with an excuse with why that happened. Y'all, we got a great show coming up. Ricky Mathews will be with us in the next segment, so stick with us. This is Lucien Smith here with Lance on Mornings on SuperTalk Mississippi.
From the Seabrook
segment of Mornings with Richard Cross is brought to you by Covington County Hospital in Collins, where your health matters.
Shaping Mississippi politics each morning. Mornings with Richard Cross. Super Talk Mississippi.
Good morning, y'all. This is Lucien Smith in for Richard here on Mornings on Super Talk Mississippi. Lance, as always, bringing the fire with that music. So thank you, Lance. We've got with us online Ricky Mathews, host of Mississippi Outdoors and the Ricky Mathews Show here on Super Talk Mississippi. Ricky, how are you doing this morning?
I'm doing great. Lucien, how you doing? I've been enjoying listening to you and Lance do your banters. You're doing a great job of sitting in for Richard.
We're kicking cans, man, kicking those cans.
There we go. Well, I'm glad you're listening, and I appreciate your being on. The liberal media apparently got all of our guests sick, so we got an upgrade with you now, Ricky.
Well, I'm privileged to be here. I love Super Talk and what Super Talk stands for, and I'm honored to be a part of the family, man.
Well, you do a great job. It been some weather on the coast lately. I saw a video of that tornado touching down in Gaucher.
Yeah, it basically did minor damage. So we were lucky in that regard, but we had severe thunderstorm warnings off and on most of the day. But at the end of the day, it was great to get some rain, man. We really needed some rain. I spent a part of the weekend up in the Mississippi Delta. And it sure was good to get some rain up there as well.
You're getting ready for hunting season, I'm guessing.
We for sure, man. We timed it perfectly. We got our seeds and fertilizer in the ground just before the rain. So it's not every year that we get to enjoy that reality.
I saw an article that said, I guess because we're moving into La Nina, that it's going to end up being a lot warmer through hunting season this year. You got any predictions there?
I've heard different points of view on it, man. Let's hope not for our duck hunters. We really need some cold weather in the middle of the country to push ducks down. The Mississippi Delta, if you go back into history, it's changed over the years, so there's not as much habitat. So we really do need everything to sort of fall in line for us to have the kind of duck season we want. So let's hope that we have a cold season.
It looked like,
sure.
And I'm certainly no meteorologist, and I'm sure someone will correct me on the C Spire text line here, but it looked like it was cold north of us, but when you really got into the southern states, it was going to be warm. So maybe that does have the effect of moving them down.
Let's hope so.
Well, are you? I assume you're watching what's going on with Hurricane Melissa, kind of a late season storm.
Yeah, it is. For people, lots of folks have been to Jamaica. They know that beautiful country. It's beautiful, lush vegetation. And the people of Jamaica, it's really sad to see what's happening. It's things up to 160 miles an hour as the recent update 5 a.m. said, kind of creeping at 3 miles per hour to the west. It will start to make that turn to the north and go over sort of the western, part of Jamaica, and then over to Cuba, and then to the Turks and Caicos. If I were to say my family, if you were to ask my family what was our favorite home away from home, it would be the Turks and Caicos Islands. But
they're great.
But we've enjoyed our time in Jamaica as well. But it's gonna devastate that island, man. It's gonna be not good.
Yeah, I think it looks like it's going to be the strongest storm, or predicted to be the strongest storm that's ever hit Jamaica.
Yeah, and if you look back in history, Gilbert and other storms that have hit there, they've had national disasters with major tropical storms. But you think about the amount of rain that's coming with this, coupled with the wind, the mudslides coming from the mountains, it's going to be devastating. Incidentally, Josh Morgan, who is the top hurricane chaser in the world, has been in more eyes than anyone on record. If there was a Guinness Book of World Record, he'd have it. Who actually lives in Bay St. Louis now. He moved to Bay St. Louis.
Really?
So he has dual residence in L.A. and Bay St. Louis. He's literally, as we speak, in Treasure Beach, which is on the southern western tip of Jamaica. So people who follow him on X or his other social media, you'll be able to see what he's experiencing. But what he actually posted about driving around, listening to reggae, but also listening to emergency folks talk about this, taking care of pregnant women and vulnerable groups and all the stuff that we experience here in coastal Mississippi. I mean, there's the air, the evacuations and the moving of boats and all of that. The Jamaicans understand that something very serious is about to occur. It's going to be a life-changing experience for just about everyone on that island.
It's awful. Everybody will be watching that closely. And I guess, do they, on the islands, are people able to evacuate to somewhere out of the way of the storm? I assume it's it's got to be a lot more complicated than if you're on the Mississippi Gulf Coast and can head up towards North Mississippi.
It is, but what they've done, I think the last I saw, they had 881 evacuation shelters.
Okay.
So, they're pretty seasoned. They understand how to do this. I think the key is getting people out of those low-lying areas because they're going to experience storm surge like they've never experienced before. And that's going to be a big part of the story. And let's pray that people get out of the storm surge areas. I mean, they've got a good warning system, and they've got a lot of shelters. And so let's pray that people heed the advice.
Yeah. Which is always the issue, right? It is convincing people this is real. It's going to be inconvenient for you, but you really need to go to this place that's been identified as being safe.
It is. If you look at the story of Dorian, this is going to be sort of like Dorian. Remember how Dorian just kind of moved over the Bahamas and it kind of sat there for a long period of time, and there was a huge Asian community on one of those islands, and the death toll was extreme. So, let's just hope that the situation will be different for Jamaica. It's hard. More people killed. Hurricane Camille killed more people in 2005 than it killed in 1969 because people tend to make decisions based on what they experienced in the last bad one. So, I'm afraid the same scenario will play out for Jamaica. Let's hope not, but it tends to be kind of normal for people to decide to stay or not heed advice based on their last experience. And this is going to be, the worst ever. This is the big one for Jamaica.
Well, I don't know how many listeners we have in Jamaica, but if they're listening, hopefully they'll heed your advice and listen to the advice they're getting from their emergency management folks. Yeah. Ricky, what was the name of the person you mentioned? A couple people on the C Spire text line want to look him up on social media.
Yes, Josh Morgerman. His last name is spelled Morgerman. He's also known as I-Cyclone. They can go to YouTube as well. He's been on my show a bunch of times.
Okay.
And he is just he's fearless in a way, but he's also thoughtful. He knows how to do this. He's rode out storms all over the world. Some of the strongest in history, he's been inside them. Gathers a lot of important data. But he is a storm chaser. He's made a living out of it. He's also got a very successful company on top of that. But he lives in Bay St. Louis, so he's a Mississippian now out in Jamaica, and he'll be as long as he's able to, he'll be tweeting and doing whatever, letting people know what he's experiencing.
I got to think he's a little bit like Jim Cantore. When you see him show up, you should be unhappy because it means that they figured out you're at a bad spot.
Hey, listen, he had a little get together, some hurricane aficionados at his house the last couple of years, and of course Jim Cantore came.
Of course.
They know each other very well, and they know that fact about each other, that when they show up, it's not a good thing.
Ricky, sort of shifting gears here, curious to get your thoughts on the violence we've seen lately in small towns in Mississippi around, looks like tending to be around high school football games.
Isn't it something, man? I spent a lot of time in the Mississippi Delta, and I have seen a rise in gun violence. And just aside from what happened that devastating weekend, that was a record weekend for violence. But what we've seen, which is a trend across the country, Lucien, is you've seen those perpetrators get younger. And they have access to guns. And one of the things I often say, and I spent a lot of time talking with the mayor of New Orleans when I was publisher of the Times-Picayune, Mitch Landrieu and I. What he said is, it's not like Crips and Bloods anymore. It's these neighborhood-based gangs, and they are very territorial, and they're young, and their role models aren't some older person. They might be 14 or 15, and their role model is 15 or 16.
Wow.
And they don't expect to live through the day, and they're making decisions based on that. So it's a tough challenge for America, and Mississippi's facing it in a big way. It's scary to see.
But it's just people it's not some national organization. It's just people who know each other in kind of little cliques.
Yeah.
Rick, you got time to...
That is usually the case, but if you look at the ages of the casualties, there's some older ones, but you see 18, 19, 25, of course, 34 and 41.
That's terrible.
But it's a bad deal, man. I mean, we've got. It's going to be interesting to watch what's happening in Memphis now as they continue to focus on gangs and taking gang members off the street.
Hey, Ricky, can you stick
difference?
with us for one more segment? We're coming up on a break.
Sure.
Hey,
100%.
Y'all stick with us. We'll have more with Ricky Mathews coming up right after this.
From the Bendable Glass Truck.
Mornings with Richard Cross here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
What else?
And always on the SuperTalk app.
Good morning, y'all. This is Lucien Smith in for Richard here on Mornings with Richard Cross. Mornings is presented by Community Bank, rooted in our community. You can learn more at communitybank.net. Well, still with us is Ricky Mathews, host of the Ricky Mathews Show and Mississippi Outdoors here on SuperTalk Mississippi. Ricky, thanks again for being with us.
I enjoy visiting with you, Lucien. We should do this more often.
I'm for it, Ricky. We were starting to talk a little bit more about you watching sort of what they're doing in Memphis, dealing with the same problem that we're seeing in a lot of small town Mississippi right now with youth gun violence.
Well, it's interesting. You see, everyone has watched. Obviously, we've seen all the polarization that has occurred as a result of what the federal government has done in D.C. to really focus on crime. And what I've been watching it closely just based on what you and I talked about earlier, and that is the rise in violent crime across America. With that effort in D.C. began to cause that to be diminished, and of course it has. So I thought that once they did that, not understanding all the intricacies of how they did it, it would be really interesting to see what happens when it rolls out to another city. So now you're watching them do that in Memphis. And you're starting to begin to see some of the numbers. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I remember over 100 gang-related individuals that have been taken out and other work that they're doing. It will be interesting to see how that goes because one of the big debates we had in New Orleans, and that is the role of law enforcement sort of in the short term tactically versus the longer term solutions. And that is, for example, in New Orleans, over half of African American men were unemployed, and the issues that come with that, and the number of homes that didn't have fathers, and so on. That a lot of the solutions are generational in nature. So there was always this kind of rub between what we need to do to address the long-term issues around crime versus what we can do in the short term. I would say, think of Memphis as more of a surge. What will a surge do to reduce crime in Memphis? And then what is it sustainable? Whatever it is they do, will it be sustainable? And what can we learn from it? I mean, look in Jackson, what they did when they broadened the scope of responsibility for the Capitol Police. Look what happened in Jackson. And they didn't do that alone. They did that in coordination with the Jackson Police Department and other entities. I think actually that's a small case study on what I'm saying. What happens when you really, really, really concentrate? So it's going to be interesting to see what we learn in Memphis and how is that transportable to other communities.
It seems like it ought to be common sense, right? That if you bring in more law enforcement, more symbols of government authority, even if you've got the National Guard who can't full-on police like the Capitol Police can inside of their jurisdiction, people respond to it. I mean, the criminals generally don't want to commit crimes where there are people who are going to arrest them and have them prosecuted.
Yeah, listen, I have a friend of mine. His name is Terry Waldrop. He has a very important role. He works for a company that's an intermediary between the Pentagon and shipbuilding, military shipbuilding in America, across multiple shipbuilding companies. And so he spends a lot of time in D.C. And he sent me a picture just in the last few days of armed National Guardsmen on the streets of Washington. Of course, that is a show of force. And then on top of that, you got all these other things that are happening. But I think what you've got to do, you've got to be willing to dive into those neighborhoods, and you've got to be willing to take violent folks off the streets. And we just haven't been able or willing or whatever it is. We have not done it. And so I think the surge that's happening in Memphis we're going to learn some things. And I, for one, think we've got to do something short-term drastically. Okay, we can have all the discussions you want to have about what we do over the long haul to solve some of these cultural problems that we're having. But in the short term, hey, man, we got to try something. And maybe this will work.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. I mean, there may be these sort of systematic things that need to be fixed, but they're not going to get fixed overnight. But you can put a law enforcement presence with money. If you got money to do it, you can put a law enforcement presence somewhere pretty quickly, and it looks like you're seeing real results when that's done.
Yeah, I agree. That's where I am on that.
Well, Ricky, we only have about 30 seconds left. But who you got today on Mississippi Outdoors?
Well, we have a guy named Todd Aikens who kind of stands up for outdoorsmen in Washington, and he's just going to give us an update on the kinds of things he's working on. And then I've got Captain Cal Johnson. He's a charter boat captain here in coastal Mississippi, where the fishing has never been better.
Well,
we look forward to having him on. Yeah, I love celebrating those guys who are on the front line representing us in the tourism industry. And they do such a great job day in and day out, man. They have to fight through it, but they do a great job at it.
Well, they do a great job, and so do you, Ricky. So thank you for taking the time to be with us this morning.
Lucien, you're the best, my friend.
Hey,
keep it up.
Y'all make sure to tune in at noon today on SuperTalk and SuperTalk.fm to listen to the Ricky Mathews Show. We've had Ricky Mathews on with us. Y'all, this is Lucien Smith in for Richard here on Mornings on SuperTalk Mississippi. Coming up next is Fox News, followed by SuperTalk Mississippi News.
Start your day right. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Good morning, y'all. This is Lucien Smith in for Richard here on Mornings with Richard Cross. The last hour of the show was brought to you by MWG Employer Services. Running a business is tough, and if you're struggling with HR benefits and payroll, you are not alone. That's where MWG Employer Services comes in. They can provide you a full range of employer services plus a custom plan that fits you. Call today at 601-206-7966 or go to mwgemployerservices.com. Well, it's always nice to get to visit with Ricky. A lot of great perspective on a lot of things. He continues to have a great career and brings a lot to bear on the news and things that are happening. So that was a real treat. Glad he was able to join us.
Well, Ricky's awesome. Plus, you get to talk about Mississippi outdoors.
That's right.
Pretty much whenever you want with all the big players. And being an outdoors person, I know I was visiting with him for a second. It was that perfect weather where if you were ready to go, you had your seed and you had all the tractors lined up and then you had your fertilizers. Now, you can get it all done right before the rain.
Yeah.
And that is hard. I mean, it makes such a big difference on the food plots and what you plant. So I know he was excited about that. And then the coast fishing lately, I think he's caught, limits. So it's just been blowing up. And what a great place to live. You get to fish the coast, and he goes up to the Delta to hunt, and that's living the good life, man.
I'm telling you, I love all of Mississippi, but I do think the Mississippi Gulf Coast is one of the real hidden gems in the country.
Oh, yeah.
And you saw a little bit of it during COVID as people were the working remote started to happen, and I'm surprised you didn't get even more people who looked at the Mississippi Gulf Coast and said, you know what, I'm gonna go get a place in Bay St. Louis instead of living in New York City or Los Angeles or somewhere and enjoy that kind of living.
I lived in Oxford for a long time,
yep.
But I always loved, we had an individual that he lived on the north side of Pickwick that worked with us. He's an older gentleman. He had gotten sick, and we had ridden up there a few times as a crew, like four of us hopping a car. But one of the most beautiful areas in Mississippi and one of the most pristine and not many people live there, is that northeast corner up there from Pickwick over. And it is absolutely beautiful. And it's one of those, it's so different than the coast. You know, you got such opposed type of geography, but yet also the distinct areas of Mississippi are just so unique to me. The Delta, you don't find much like that anywhere. You can go over to Arkansas and get a little in Louisiana, but the Mississippi Delta being a very unique place.
Oh,
Red
absolutely.
Hills.
It's like a whole different world.
Get up there in the northeast part. I mean, that's where your mountains are in Mississippi. So, but I mean, like you said, love everything about the state. Love all the little nooks and crannies and great places. And it's always been an honor to get out and see the place.
Yeah,
see Mississippi.
it's a great state, but we're lucky to live here.
I don't get to the coast as much as I'd like. But
same. Every time I get to the coast, I think I should really be coming to the coast more often.
Can I do my job here?
That's right.
Do they have a place where I can just set up on the beach?
I'd be for that.
Oh, I'm in, man. You know, that's the thing. Hopefully, as technology improves, I will be able to take this board wherever I go. You know, and produce, like be on the side of a mountain in Tibet or something, and just get up at 5 a.m., get ready, produce a show, and get back to wandering around the wilderness or something.
You're seeing that more and more in this business and in TV. I mean, I know we're in TV also, but primarily it's radio. Is the folks who have these home studios, and the technology's so good that they don't have to go in every day and come to a real physical studio like we do.
Well, the host has that option.
Yeah.
Us in the production world, we get anchored down to the board, and that's the way it should be. You got all the computers, but one day we'll be able to figure out how to do this with a cell phone.
Yeah,
let's just get it done right here.
No doubt about it.
I know. I've broadcast a game from the stands of a high school football game on the visiting side, and we did it off an iPhone, and that was a decade ago. So, technology is amazing.
Oh, it is.
The worry I have is I think we have a bubble that has happened a bit, and it's not a Trump or anything like that. It's just nature of how bubbles happen, much like the .com and the mortgage bubbles and all that. I think you got an AI, a crypto, and a housing bubble all at the same time. You go, housing, have y'all checked rent prices? No, they've started to come back a bit, but wow. I mean, if you can comprehend somebody that has the ability to pay $2,800 a month for a 3-bedroom smaller home for a family, I mean, that's a lot of money, Lucien.
It is. And it's the reason you see these big national outfits buying up houses, because it's just the rents have gotten so high.
They have, and there's COVID, a lot of leftover money and things floating around out there. But at the same time, you have a crypto bubble where you have a lot of terrible companies that are just throwing stuff out, making money. I remember that in the .com bubble days. You had a bunch of people in their underwear, and they were running a company with no assets, nothing but debt, and yet they were valuation debt very high. And then the same with the AI world. I think you got a bunch of players, but you only have a few serious contenders. And,
yes.
and as bubbles happen, you see the players go away, and the contenders generally eat up the market share. A lot of people will lose, and the little ones and those that saw it coming will usually benefit immensely on the move. And then with mortgages as well. I talked to a few realtors, and the quarter point hadn't done much. You hadn't seen much more activity in the housing market yet. I believe that a part of that issue is you've had such an inflation of home values that it's tough to come up with that 10 and 20% down.
Well, plus if you've got
for a lot of folks,
if you've got if you own something currently and you've got a 375 note on it, it's tough to get it. Even though it's come down 25 basis points, you're still 3 points away from what you're paying right now.
So there's a lot's got to change, and those are generally those types of things that you look at when you see a pent up frustration or some pent up angst. And I do see that in crypto, AI, and housing. Mm-hmm. Hopefully you'll see a resolution before you have a pop. But bubbles happen, and they're very regular. Markets go up, and they try to stabilize and then rebound and go in, hopefully to greater heights.
Well, and I think with both AI and crypto, the comparison to the .com era is spot on, because it's kind of like, was it Pets.com that threw a .com on the end of their name, and all of a sudden the price went way up. Yeah.
And that's where we are. I think you've got a lot of we're very flattered with what it can and potentially do for us. And yet at the end, I think the same is true. It's not going to do everything you hope, because not all these companies and not all these players can deliver on that. But the serious ones will probably be great innovators.
Well, and that's my point. Is it's gonna be you right now. Everybody is saying there's AI.
Yeah.
They're whatever they're doing.
I'm
they're like,
open AI.
I'm an AI fueled whatever. I'm an AI fueled Coca-Cola. I mean, it's just everything's got an AI connection, and the ones that aren't real, that's going to bust. But the ones that are really able to do stuff, it's going to be like the Googles and Amazons of the world.
Yeah,
There'll
those
be a
are the ones you
downtick.
want to really pay attention
That's
to. It's
right.
hard to find those. And one of the things we would do a lot in finance is look in the pharmaceutical companies, and you'd see a lot of penny stock pharmaceuticals in there, and then you'd say pick 10 of those. And you wouldn't put a lot of money in. You're like $100 a pop. I mean, you're buying thousands of shares. With
most
$100.
of them are going to go to zero.
Yeah, 9 of them are going to go to probably 10. But the one that does hit is going to go outrageously up, and and that's one that gets some drug approved or gets some. So it's similar in that you're looking for the needle in a haystack. There are obviously ones that have got price to earnings that are way up and all this, but it's going to be fun to me to watch how those markets function. And I do believe they have an impact in housing, because you've seen a lot of these funds that you talk about buying up housing are using what to break down the logistics of it, break down the numbers, using AI.
Right.
So, I mean, some of this fuels itself a little bit. And I think, just my point to listeners is just keep your eyes peeled. Not everything is gold. But it can come in the package that is looks like gold.
It really is gonna be interesting to see how AI changes things, because I mean, what you can do with whether it's Grok or ChatGPT. I know there are a bunch of others. Those are the only two that I've really played with.
Yeah.
I mean, it's extraordinary how quickly they can generate things that would take a human being. If you asked a human being to go draft you a letter, it might take half an hour,
You're
or
a
whatever.
lawyer. Yeah, y'all are one of the ones in finance and
Absolutely.
law were two of the, I think in healthcare, probably the first three that were really going, oh, wow, there's a lot here. Now, how can we best implement this for, efficiencies and accuracies? But then you got Judge Wingate over here, and I sent you that article where they used AI for, brief, and it was completely, off.
You got to
be
check
careful.
your work. You got to check your work. And people have gotten in trouble all over the country using AI, and you get, and I forget what the term is, but when the AI just makes something up, and you say, well, give me a brief on this, or give me cases on this, and you assume it's giving you good information, but you got to go back and check the math. I mean, you got to go make sure those cases are accurate. But really, and this is, I think it shows where things have fallen down. That's really good practice just in general. Even if an associate gives you a brief, there should be a process you go through to make sure that the cases in there are accurate, and there's systems that do it for you, but you got to actually do it.
Well, it's like I was saying, if I were to put in a misspelled word as code into whatever AI program I'm coding, that error is going to be in there forever. And humans are the ones that are programming and pouring in. I mean, a lot of times AI is surfing the internet to get information.
Yes, and if it gets bad information on the internet.
Mankind's flawed. We're going to have flawed responses. Happens all the time. And again, that's part of the fun of this is how do you navigate that? How do you trust it or distrust it? Entirely.
You got to have some common sense too. I've seen it make math errors. I asked it to do a calculation on compound interest once on sort of retirement. It said you'll have $100 million in 10 years, and I thought that doesn't sound right.
Too good to be true.
I'm for it, but I don't think that's right. Y'all stick with us. This is Lucien Smith here with Lance in for Richard on Mornings on SuperTalk Mississippi. We'll have more right after this.
You have a rig in my life.
From Sumner to Summit to Summerall, Richard has something for you. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Woke up this morning with a funny feeling.
Good morning. This is Lucien Smith in for Richard here on Mornings on Super Talk Mississippi. Mornings with Richard Cross is presented by Community Bank, rooted in our community, communitybank.net. We're here for every part of your financial journey, looking to manage your personal finances. Our banking services make it simple, secure, and tailored to you. Ready to grow your business? We offer expert guidance and custom solutions to help your business thrive. Dreaming of a new home? Our mortgage specialists are here to make the process seamless, all designed with you in mind. We're more than just a bank. We're your partner for life's biggest moments. Community Bank, rooted in our community, member FDIC, equal housing lender. We were talking about this a little bit in the 730 block, but Hakeem Jeffries, the leader of the House Democrats, was on CBS's Face the Nation yesterday and started to talk about how the midterm elections, and next year, 2026, will be the year of the midterm elections, how the midterm elections, he used the word rig and suggested that President Trump was rigging the midterm elections, which is extraordinary. And you just think about the last 9 years. Go back to 2016. Trump won in 2016. We were told by the Democrats and a lot of the mainstream media that the Russians had colluded with the Trump campaign, and the suggestion that a lot of people walked away with, I've talked to folks on the left who believe this, was that somehow the Russians were literally changing votes. You had hearings, and I want to say Kamala Harris was one of the senators who made this point, talking about how insecure American voting machines were and how the votes could be altered. Then you fast forward 4 years later, President Trump does not win the election. He proceeds to talk about how the election was unfair. There's all this talk of voting machines being rigged, which since has been shown to be inaccurate. But the Democrats talked about how terrible and undemocratic and un-American it was that you would have someone ever suggest that the voting wasn't perfectly fair. Now, as it looks like the Democrats may lose in 26, and we're obviously a long way away from the 2026 midterm elections, but they're worried about losing, and you're starting to see the Democrats go ahead and suggest that those elections wouldn't be fair. And interestingly, you had Margaret Brennan, who's the host of Face the Nation, push back on Hakeem Jeffries, which says a lot when you've got a fairly liberal reporter on a fairly liberal TV show pushing back on a very liberal member of the Democratic Party on that claim. But it's staggering, and it speaks so much to the hypocrisy on the left that when Donald Trump said it, it was evil and wrong. And I don't think that people should undermine faith in elections. I've said that before. But it's bad when we do it, and it's bad when they do it. The fact of the matter is they are looking, and it's the same thing that they did in 2016, they are looking for an excuse to not grapple with how extreme they've gotten on the left.
Well, they have plenty of cheerleaders to help them think that it's great. I mean, when you got a guy like Gavin Newsom who's out there that seems to champion almost every cause that the far left is going to sit there and echo and talk and scream and everything Trump does, you got a Democrat leader that is obviously in power now over the largest state as far as economies in this. Well, I mean, debatable if you take in debt, but
right.
A place that has always been a mecca for people for generations to go for the sun and the sand and the jobs and this and that. But yet people are leaving California at a rapid pace.
That's right.
Okay, but you got a governor over there that is positioning himself for after the midterms to make an announcement on whether he's going to run for president or not. And you have a couple of other leaders in AOC, and you also have Jasmine and others that are extremely outspoken that seem to be trying to almost take the party over.
Absolutely.
And so I'm anxious to see how the rhetoric continues between now and midterms, because it seems to me the only ones serious about running for anything in the Democrat Party are members of the extreme far left of their party. Where is the other ones? I'd like to know.
I don't think a moderate.
I
don't think a moderate can get nominated.
There's no way Fetterman makes it to an election. To me, if he goes for something bigger with a moderate stance as a Democrat, he might be lucky to win again.
Well, the Democrats are already talking about trying to get him out of office because he hadn't towed the line and done and stuck with every crazy talking point they've got.
So these are interesting times, because to me, a party that has an ability to win elections has taken the mindset that let's represent the most extreme measures and little bitty pieces of this party, and let's try to make that mainstream. And it is not working very well, but at the same time, the voice is so loud and it's so constant that you think it's bigger than it is.
Well, you saw a little bit of it back at the 24 conventions. Bill Clinton spoke, and Clinton used to be in the Democratic Party a rock star. I mean, you remember when he came out in 2020. In 2000, his last convention as president when they were nominating Al Gore. I mean, it was like Bono was coming on stage. People were going nuts. They had that long camera shot of him walking through the back halls at the convention center to get people primed. Well, when he spoke in 24, and there were some articles in some mainstream publications about this, the delegates felt uncomfortable with Clinton. There was a lot of unease with Bill Clinton. Hillary was still a fan favorite, but there was a lot of unease with him because he governed relative to the modern Democratic Party as a moderate. I mean, he was certainly no conservative, but relative to what the Democrats want now, the things he did, like signing the Defense of Marriage Act and welfare reform and the Don't Ask, Don't Tell policies.
Who actually coined "Make America Great Again"?
It was Reagan, wasn't it?
He was one of them, but the one that really took it to the nth degree was Bill Clinton. Go back to his campaigns, and this is the guy that, as you stated, ran as a moderate Democrat after you had the recession ensuing because of Bush's policies. You had the warring, you had the increase in taxes, all these things that Bush had misstepped on. Clinton comes in as a moderate. Comes in as, hey, this is how we're going to do it. And people believed that. And he did deliver upon that. I mean, go listen to the campaign. Go listen to the way that he went about it. Even as governor, as he got into the mainstream, make America great again. Well, that was one of his main pieces. And the fiscal policies of the Republican Party today are the same things that he was echoing then. That's where we are. I mean, you had a basic moderate Republican that ran as a Democrat or however you want to put it, but he led from the center. No matter all of the craziness that he was part of with Monica Lewinsky and Whitewater and all of the other, the USS Cole was bombed and all these things that I think he misstepped on, people still respected him for leading from the middle, I think.
Yeah, I think that's right. And to be clear, neither Lance nor I are endorsing Bill Clinton.
No, heck no. I disliked Bill immensely. I worked up on the Hill at the time he was there. Not a fan.
But there's no world in which Bill Clinton could get nominated.
He couldn't get 10% of the vote.
No, exactly.
That's how far we've come, and that's kind of the point I'm making.
Yeah, no, you're right.
It's not that I support Bill Clinton, but I would much prefer a Bill Clinton type of Democrat if you are a Democrat out there that leads from the center than I would the type that wants to basically splinter everything into these special interest groups and then try to glue them back together again.
Well, in Clinton, I forget the name of it, there was a Democratic group in the 80s that may have continued into the 90s that was all about trying to move the Democratic Party towards the center, and he was a big leader, and it may have been the founder of it, because they'd gotten so captive to the unions and the more socialist wing of their party. And you were talking about Tony Blair earlier, very similar deal. When Blair took over the Labour Party in the UK, which is the Liberal party over there, it was a similar deal. They had gotten so captive to the extremists that he came in and said, "Hey, let's move back to the middle." And that is how he was ultimately able to be successful.
And he and Billy were buds.
Yeah, that's right. But right now, if some Democrat stood up, if a prominent Democrat stood up and said, we need to move back to the middle, we need to maybe get away from some of these extreme positions, they'd eat him alive. They'd run him out of the party.
Same thing would happen in England.
Yeah.
Look at Keir Starmer and what's going on the streets there. Unmitigated immigration, being overrun by the more Muslim extremists, this basic open borders for anybody that's ever had a problem with their government in the world. And that's something you got to be careful with. What we call refugees. I'm not saying people don't have issues out in the world today, but in this country, we stayed and fought for the rights that you now have. And that's what a lot of people in this world need to do, is stand up to the oppressor. We had to do it here. We're the beacon for that.
You're seeing.
And so the reality is all this acceptance of come here and we'll pay you to be our buddies and you're refugees. Get rid of that. Those folks need to be staying in their home and making their homes better. Just like Jackson. If everybody leaves Jackson, what's going to happen to Jackson, Lucien?
It's going to keep having the troubles
going down.
Got.
And so who's going to bail that out? Is that going to be United States of America's job forever to just bail everybody out because we don't like living here anymore? We got to get beyond that.
Yeah.
People have got to stand up and do their part.
Well, it's the best thing that can happen to the conservatives is the liberals, the liberal party's continuing to be so crazy because
goodness gracious,
so long as they're way over there, the folks in the middle are going to vote to put the conservatives in power, and that ultimately I think is a good thing for the country, both here and in other places. Y'all stick with us. We're up against a break. We've got JT Mitchell coming up next to tell us, give us a little preview about the news for the week and let us know what's happened since last week. Y'all, this is Lucien Smith in for Richard here on Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
From the Seabright is up, the coffee is on, and you're starting your day right. Mornings with Richard Cross here on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Good morning, y'all. This is Lucien Smith in for Richard here on Mornings on SuperTalk. Mornings with Richard Cross is presented by Community Bank, rooted in our community, communitybank.net. Well, as that music suggests, with us here in studio is the one and only JT Mitchell, the news director for SuperTalk Mississippi. Good morning, JT.
Hey, Lucien. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm glad you're here with us.
Did you get up earlier this morning than usual?
A little bit earlier than I normally do. A little bit earlier than I normally do. The helpful part is my 4-year-old likes to crawl in the bed about 4 a.m., so I almost didn't set an alarm because I knew there was no risk of me oversleeping. Well, sounds like there's been some news in the metro area since last night.
Yeah, there has. So after the news broke, my wife texted me the story that we have reported on about a road rage incident in Rankin County near the reservoir where shots were fired.
Goodness.
And I think my wife was texting me to try to say, hey, this is why you don't have road rage ever, because you never know what that person is going to do.
That's so true.
Last night, we got word from the Reservoir Police Department that around 9 p.m. on Spillway Road, right there at the intersection of North Shore and Old Fannin, this woman was driving. And I don't know what was said between the drivers, but this guy was tailgating her in a Toyota Tacoma. And he pulled up next to her, pulled out a gun, and shot right at her.
Wow.
Fortunately, she was not hit by a bullet, but the glass splattered back at her. They started the investigation, and an initial investigation has not turned up a suspect. So now they're asking for your help out there.
I'll tell you, what color is the Tacoma? Because I go across there every day, 2 to 4 times a day, and I'm telling you, man, that area through there, it is the most frustrating. And I can tell you, please find out more information on the type of car. I'll keep my eyes peeled because I can tell you, I know a couple of Toyota Tacomas that have been, less than stellar drivers.
That's interesting.
So,
all they've said. So if you know this person, Lance, go ahead and call
I have no
Reservoir
idea who
PD.
it is, but like I said, let's see.
A white male driving a white Toyota Tacoma.
Okay.
Does that give you much?
Probably
not.
A white Toyota Tacoma.
Correct.
Okay.
And so they're still looking for a suspect because seriously, guys, and my wife and I, we try to hold each other accountable because it's easy to get PO'd when you're on the road. It is.
Absolutely.
But it's also, you never know the stability of somebody who you get mad at.
That's terrifying.
Well, the stability of somebody that will tailgate you, for 3 miles doing 55 or 60, or a motorcycle that decides to ride the yellow lane all the way between you. Those folks are not right to begin with.
Yeah.
And so I would stay away from. That's my advice. You can get as mad as you want and upset, but nothing good's going to come from confronting that. The Reservoir PD is right there to the right. And go report them. Get a license plate and go report these folks. I've had to do it a couple of times, but don't take it into your own hands. Let the police do that.
And let's be honest, even if you do get into a conversation with somebody who's tailgating you or yelling at you, typically that person isn't going to be like, okay, I understand.
Yeah, my bad.
I'm so sorry, my bad. That's not how it works. So if you know anything about this incident, contact Reservoir PD at 601-992-9894.
Yeah, I've not found it to be particularly productive to talk to my spouse about how I think she's driving. I can't imagine it going well with a stranger. So
no,
yeah.
And there are so many stories of this statewide. I mean, we've heard of people shot down on the coast in the last year because of road rage. Jackson, you see some incidents like this. Just be smart. Like Lance said, if somebody is tailgating you for 3 miles, even when they have a chance to pass you, their mental stability is probably not worth trying to have a conversation with.
Amen.
I will echo that 100%.
JT, so Lindsay Whiteside's back in police custody. I may be the only person in the country who's not up to date on this story.
You must not be on TikTok.
I'm not, in fact, on TikTok.
So if you are on TikTok, you've heard about this. If you keep up with the news, you've probably heard about it as well. Lindsay Whiteside was a youth minister and an assistant basketball coach up in DeSoto County.
Okay.
She had, and I say had because she admitted to it, a sexual relationship with a minor, a female minor. And she was charged on the state level. A couple weeks ago, it could have been last week, time runs together, but a couple weeks ago, she pleaded guilty and she received 10 years of supervision, 3 years of house arrest, 7 years of probation. Kind of a slap on the wrist if you ask people in DeSoto County, because DA Matthew Barton was chasing 30 years in prison.
Wow.
And so people heard about her state charges and her subsequent sentencing, and they said, not in my community. Hundreds of parents went to the school board meeting to protest somebody who teaches children having a sexual relationship with one of those children and only getting house arrest.
Yeah, no, that seems to me they ought to be going to jail for a long time.
You would think. And I don't know the inner workings of law enforcement, but lo and behold, after that sentencing, after the uproar, the feds have pressed charges against her. She was indicted by a federal grand jury, and so now she'll go through the process again. Because a lot of this was transporting that minor she had a sexual relationship with across state lines. That itself is a federal crime. And so it's an added charge. And so she'll now go through the process. She has pleaded not guilty on that. She'll have her initial detention hearing tomorrow. I don't have a time yet from the U.S. District Court up there in North Mississippi. But this has people in shambles. They are not pleased. And they're especially not pleased that one of the school board members wrote a letter of support for Lindsay Whiteside. And a lot of people think that putting one and one together, the school board member vouched for her. We should probably give her a slap on the wrist. And so now they're chasing prison time through federal charges since state charges did not result in prison time. And there's a lot here, Lucien. I mean, we've had sources within the church up there, Get Well Church in DeSoto County, that have said that different people who worked there were pressuring congregation members to stand up for her.
Wow.
And that forgiveness needs to be had here. Well, parents disagree. Parents think that,
as a parent, I would disagree pretty strongly.
Maybe you forgive eventually, but you go to jail if you have a sexual relationship with a minor. We reported on virtually the same story, except at Clinton Christian, an assistant basketball coach, but a male. He got sentenced to 30 years in prison. And so there's a lot here. It's gone viral on TikTok. We've been reporting it the entire time. And now she faces the federal charges. We did hear from Matthew Barton, who said he's trying to get her resentenced on state charges. He's pulled out a state code that I believe prohibits offenders convicted of sex crimes from being placed within an intensive supervision program. And so by the end of this, Lindsay Whiteside could be in prison for a long time.
Goodness. Well, on a also important but less serious note, we've got statewide. I mean, we've got special elections next week for some legislative seats
and school board.
And
that could be your segue. There is that some areas of the state are having school board elections, and you put those people into office, and sometimes you have situations like that where somebody gets behind a sex offender, and you get mad at them for doing so, and so your vote does matter. Our turnout is atrocious. I think that's objectively true. And I think that Secretary of State Michael Watson's office has been doing a really nice job of trying to get people to vote. I mean, it's not as easy here as in other places, but it's still really easy. I mean, there are tons of reasons to be able to vote absentee. If you're out of town on election day, if you're 65 or older, that itself is a huge portion of the population. And so you do have an array of local races that will be taking place a week from tomorrow. You also have 17 special legislative elections. So these are the people you're sending to the Capitol if you live in DeSoto County, Chickasaw County, Hattiesburg area. There's a Senate seat here in Jackson with Mayor John Horn going to City Hall. There's one in Greenwood, and then there's another in Clarksdale with Orlando Payton becoming mayor. And so all I can really tell you is to go to y'allvote.ms, type in your address, and it will populate if you have an election. And if you're out of town, you have from now, today, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday until noon to cast an in-person absentee ballot.
And if you're listening and not watching us on C Spire TV, it's worth noting that JT rattled those off without any notes, which I think is pretty impressive.
Well.
It speaks to what a high-quality news director we've got.
Yeah, he is the director of news, the news sensei for a reason.
Well, we're about to run out of time. Why don't you tell us, on a happy note, why don't you tell us a little bit about Kaylee Clark and The Voice?
Yeah, I'm not a big voice guy.
Same.
But when you have a Mississippian get in there and really show a chance of winning, it's worth checking out. And a lot of people nationwide think Kaylee Clark, all the way from Sumrall, could win this season of The Voice. It airs again tonight at 7 p.m. Central. And, I mean, she's great. There's some audio at supertalk.fm you can go listen to. Support your own.
There we go. You always love to see Mississippi people doing well, so that's great. JT, thanks for being with us.
Thanks, Lucien.
Y'all stick with us and make sure to go to supertalk.fm to get more of the great news from JT and his team. Y'all, this is Lucien Smith in for Richard here on Mornings on SuperTalk Mississippi.
From the Venable Glass.
No matter where you're from, Abbeville, Batesville, DeIberville, or any other ville in the SIP, you're starting your day off right. Mornings with Richard Cross. Super Talk, Mississippi.
Good morning, y'all. This is Lucien Smith in for Richard Cross here on Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk Mississippi. Final segment here with Lance. Remember, Mornings with Richard Cross is presented by Community Bank, rooted in our community, communitybank.net.
I got one thing for you.
What's that?
Before we roll on out of here, I wanted to highlight Mississippi Junior College football for a second, because think of this. Northwest Mississippi Community College ranked number 4 nationally. Colin ranked number 7 nationally. Mississippi Gulf Coast ranked number 9 nationally. Hines Community College ranked number 12th nationally.
Wow.
And Itawamba ranked number 15th nationally. So just wanted to put that out there. As I was saying earlier, JUCO football, that's something else. And when you got 5 teams in the top 15 from Mississippi, little old Mississippi, that's amazing.
It really is.
Congratulations, guys. Keep up the great work.
Well, they're great programs, whether it's for technical training or for an associate's degree, or just figuring out whether senior college is the right fit.
Yeah.
I mean, it's great that we got those programs.
Well, in the conversation about Lindsey Whiteside, that was really a crazy situation, given that we had just seen over here in Clinton a young man teacher get sentenced that with all this equality, you'd think that no matter the sex, it would be similar as far as the punishment.
I agree with you.
And you shouldn't have to go through another trial, and you shouldn't have to be reaching for some code or something to put somebody in jail that likely should be.
Well, I missed, shifting gears, I missed a birthday in our birthday segment. My wife, her birthday is tomorrow.
Okay.
So I will not be here in no small part because it's her birthday, and so I'm going to go ahead and if you see Bethany Smith tomorrow, make sure to wish her a happy birthday.
Well, I wish you were in with us so we could do that, formally here and have her come in. But
I'll text in.
Yeah, let us remind me to make sure that we give Miss Bethany a birthday shout out tomorrow.
I will.
Especially given that she's been organizing all of this family stuff for months now.
That's
out
right.
of an apartment.
It's been an adventure, and I'm very lucky to have somebody like her who helps us live through all of it.
Now, what is your weekend plan, sir? Obviously, you got a week full of lawyering, but are you going to do anything this weekend? You got any big plans?
So I think the big question is, it's Halloween.
Yeah, that's why I was asking. I didn't know what y'all were up to.
I don't think we've settled on it yet. The kids are very much in the thick of sporting activities. Mm-hmm. So there are 2 soccer tournaments. And we got to figure out when we're going to trick or treat. But my saintly wife has managed to continue, and I wonder every year, is this going to be the last year? Because Liam's getting older, and at some point it's not going to be cool. But we still are doing a family Halloween costume. So I'll make a point of tweeting a picture of that out.
So it's like y'all have a theme?
Yes. So the kids are really into Harry Potter right now. So everybody is going as a Harry Potter character.
I would do like the Daniel Radcliffe. I would do him because I'm 6'4" and he's like 4'1". Yeah, I love him though as an actor. What a good, a launching spot for him. If you haven't watched some of his, Imperium and I think I'm trying to remember The Jungle and some of the movies that he's done outside of that. Man, that dude can act, brother. It is.
Oh yeah, he's
little
talented
as he is, and he's fierce.
And Emma Watson has done a bunch.
Oh yeah, man, she's. Not only a great actress, she's pretty easy to look at.
She is.
Yeah,
she's a
very easy to.
Very good-looking person. But I forget the name of the actor who played the redhead. He has not done a bunch that I'm aware of. But I don't know.
Some of those movies, like Star Wars, it launched Harrison Ford, but everyone else it basically tanked them.
That's a good point. Mark Hamill, you didn't hear a lot from.
Carrie Fisher went loon after that a bit, and I loved Carrie Fisher, but you didn't see Lando Calrissian, Billy D. I think he did a couple Colt 45 commercials.
Interesting.
It always it works every time. But you didn't see many of those really jump to bigger roles outside of Harrison Ford. So there's only so much room at the top, right?
That's the truth. And you always wonder what the deals those people worked out.
Yeah.
Like were some of them like the guy the kid who played Ron Weasley on Harry Potter? Is he not acting because people don't want to hire him, or is he not acting because
he made enough money?
He's like Brian Kelly, and Ogeron. He's just living off living off those residuals.
I don't know what I would do. I guess if you were extremely motivated and you hit it big, how would that affect you? If if it was easy, if you got it as a child, you didn't have to really work hard to get there.
Yeah.
You got it hit, and now you got all this money. I've heard Charlie Sheen talk about those things. Like he goes, I didn't earn what I got, and that's why it really affected me by zapping my brain. He goes,
I could see that.
It didn't sink in that I didn't do anything to earn this.
I've heard people say that, like the folks who get mega wealthy when they're in their 20s from startups, that it's a similar deal. It's like you're 29 years old and you're set for the rest of your life.
You're done,
and you got to figure out a way to engage your mind and stay healthy and stay, not just sitting around blowing up race cars because you can. Y'all, thanks for starting your week out here on Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk. It's been a real pleasure. This is Lucien Smith in for Richard here with Lance. Stick around. We've got Fox News followed by Super Talk Mississippi News.
He's in the jailhouse now. Well, I told him once or twice to stop playing cards and shooting dice. He's in the jailhouse now.
A SuperTalk Mississippi media production.